Sin City, Smooth Bambino.
Sinners, ride around town, my sinners. Got about 10 in my dinner. Bad bitch looking like dinner. Looking for the gas, got the fill up. Talking at your neck, nigga, pull up. Word around town trying to kill us. Killer. Sinners, ride around town, my sinners. Got about 10 in my dinner. Bad bitch looking like dinner. Looking for the gas, got the fill up. Talking at your neck, nigga, pull up. Word around town trying to kill us. Killer.
Tell me who want big smoke. All my niggas cutthroat. Savage life so macho.
Welcome to the Underrated Podcast, episode 34, titled, They Ain't Defunding Them, They Calling Them. Now, question to the audience. Are you in favor of defunding the police? If so, leave your reasons in the comment section below. Now, this year has been the poster child of weird activity. So this topic is definitely 2020 related. Now, people want to defund the police. Now, when you say defund the police, it does not mean to shut down the whole police department. However, many officers have retired early, took leaves of absence, or just resigned from the force altogether. And also with the budget cuts, forced many officers off the force. Now, this move has left a lot of departments without proper numbers that caused a decrease in adequate response time and an increase in crime across the United States. But ask yourself this question: do the leadership of these states really practice what they're preaching? Meet example A. Example A, meet Joanna Hardesty, a Portland, Oregon city commissioner that has advocated defunding the police with all her will and might. Now, this lady, this beautiful black lady, has decided to call the police. Yes, that's right, you heard me correct. She called the police after advocating defunding them.
Portland City Commissioner Joanne Hardesty was at the A Casino in Ridgefield, Washington on Sunday evening, November 1st. She ordered a ride from Lyft to get home to Portland just before 10 o'clock. The ride started out on the wrong foot when the driver said Hardesty was at a different entrance than he expected. Once she got in the car, the driver said she was angry that he would not roll up the front windows all the way. He said they were down slightly as a COVID precaution. As Hardesty continued to complain, the driver said he took the first exit off I-5, canceled the ride, and pulled into a Chevron station to let Hardesty get out and call for another ride. The commissioner refused and instead called 911.
911, what's your emergency?
Well, I got a Lyft driver that decided he would just drop me off at a filling station and he wants me to get out, and I'm not getting out of the car in the dark at a filling station. Not happening. All because I asked him to put the window up, but I'm not leaving. He says I have to get out of his car, or he's calling the police, so I decided to call for him.
Okay. I mean, technically it's his property and you have a civil agreement. There's no crimes involved.
Well, he said he was calling the cops. I told him he's not going to leave me on the
It's not a crime to call the cops.
Commissioner Hardesty.
Now, she called the fuzz for something that wasn't even a crime, but she's pushing defund the police. She called these guys right here. She called them, and she want to take their jobs, but she called them over something that wasn't a crime. Wow. Now next, we have the hypocrite Jenny Durkin, the current mayor of Seattle and the former activist for the Summer of Love Chaz takeover. She put citizens at risk for the sake of police brutality. She left the police commissioner powerless to even stop the riots in the city, which resulted in 3 deaths of black people in Chaz zones. However, the mob didn't stop there. They wanted her head too. They showed up at her residence, and what happened next? I'll let you guess what happened next.
Continued efforts to de-escalate and bring community messengers in, including personally having conversations with demonstrator organizations on Friday. The deteriorating conditions and repeated gun violence required us to immediately address public safety concerns. From conversations over the weekend, it was clear that many individuals would not leave, and that the impacts to the community could not be reduced, and public safety could not be improved until they did leave.
Let me translate this for most of y'all. These niggas showed up at my house, and they threatened me. And other words, we have to stop the Chaz zones now, right now. So, is it right that she gets to do this? Is it okay that you can use riots until they show up at your house? Now look at the reaction of one of the victims from the Chaz zone. One of the black victims' father. Look at his reaction.
And I loved him. And that was my son.
Wednesday night, the father went on Fox News to share his pain and frustration.
It's like they didn't care. It didn't matter. I haven't heard from the mayor. I haven't heard from the police department. I haven't from no city and nobody.
He says he got a call this morning from an elected leader, but not Seattle's mayor.
I still ain't heard from the mayor. Incredibly, Donald Trump called me. The president of the United States called me today and talked to me today.
What did he say?
He gave his condolences, and me, I'm not a political guy, so I'm not. But I told him, I didn't know nobody like you. I'm real. I said, don't nobody like you, but on this camera, I tell you right now, Donald Trump called me, and he didn't have to call me. He didn't have to do nothing.
I won't even get into the Trump situation because I know how people are going to take it, but he did it. Now, why didn't she do it? Why didn't she care enough to call him after his son was killed in the protected zones, the Chaz zones? I wonder why. But as soon as they showed up at her house, she called the police. Enough said. Enough said. Look at this weirdo. Mayor Lightfoot. You should be entertaining any increase of law enforcement in your town, like really. But the same events happened to her. She weaponized the riots and she was okay with it until they showed up at her house. They showed up. The mob showed up. Is this the police in front of the mayor's house protecting it after she had a strong stance on defunding the police department? Did she call the police? Did you call the police? Did you call them? It looked like you called the police. How ironic. How ironic. You had to use the police. And finally, the last hypocrite, Portland Mayor Ted Wheeler. I don't think he cared about those citizens at all, because I don't think the state cared about those citizens at all. But this guy is a heavy proponent of defunding the police, and he went outside in the riots, and look how it turned out. They almost ate him alive.
Everybody please! We gotta let the man talk! Everyone back! First of all, I want to thank the tens of thousands of Portlanders who've come out to demonstrate in support of racial justice and equity. I want to thank the thousands of you who've come out to oppose the Trump administration's occupation of our city. unconstitutional occupation. The tactics that are being used by our federal officers are abhorrent. They do not act with probable cause. People are not being told who they are being arrested by, and they're being denied basic constitutional rights. I understand that. You're all entitled to your opinion, and the reason I wanted to be here tonight was not to...
I mean, say what you want about the rioters, but at least they smart enough to know that these people don't believe in this. Look, they got a cop head over his head. He's the ops, because he know he don't believe in it. He don't believe in it. Don't listen to these people. These people are crazy, and they're using it to get you on their side. But they use the cops all the time. They don't want to defund the police. This is the Underrated Podcast, episode 34, titled "They Ain't Defunding the Police. They call them. They need them. You need them too. Look what's going on in America." I'm your host, Ed G again, and we out.